Hello and welcome to our 13th session on basic gameplay. Congratulations if you are watching this video. It means you have made all the way through Unit 1 and are ready to take your skills to the next level. In this session, we will create a much more interactive top-down prototype where the player has to throw food to hungry animals who are stampeding towards them. And if you have ever had to face down a herd of charging moose with nothing in your hand but a slice of pizza, you will know that's going to be pretty exhilarating. If you think about our first prototype, it wasn't really a game. The player was the only object that could move, so they could just take their time in this completely predictable environment. There was no real objective, excitement, or sense of urgency. In most games and interactive experiences though, there are non-player enemies or obstacles outside of the player's control that force the player to respond. In order to respond, the player will usually have some ability like an attack or defend, and more often than not, it's also some element of randomness so that the experience is more exciting and unpredictable. All of these things are elements of basic gameplay, and that's exactly what we are learning to program in this prototype. Non-player animals will spawn at random locations, and it's up to the player to use their food launching ability to feed those animals. Even though we are programming one particular type of game, in this session, you will be amazed at how far these skills will take you. Just about every great classic game ever made draws on these fundamental ingredients of basic gameplay. This prototype is all about feeding hungry animals. So the first big decision to make is what kind of animals you want to feed and what you want to feed them. Do you want to feed an apple to a chicken? Do you want to feed a steak to a dog? Or want to feed some pizza to a moose? All of that and more is possible. But if we want to be able to chase all of these animals to feed them, the player is going to need some basic movement. So by the end of this session, you will have a player, some food and some animal in the scene with the ability to move the player left and right. Moving the player left and right will be easy. We will use the same technique we did in the driving simulator to move the car. But here is the twist. Unlike the car, which we could drive off the edge, we don't want the player to be able to leave the edge of the screen. So to prevent this from happening, we will use something called an if statement. An if statement is a pretty straightforward concept. If some condition is met, then do something. In our project, if the player's position is too far to the left, then we will stop. If the player's position is too far to the right, then we will stop them there too. If statements are one of the most important tools for adding logic to your project. Let us come into Unity Hub, double click to launch Unity Hub, and in Unity Hub, come into project, and now we are going to start with a new project. So I will click on new project, and with 6.3 version selected, I come into the template and choose Universal 3D SRP, and on the right hand side for the project name I am going to call this as deer_game, and in the folder eUnity project I click on create project, and I will wait till Unity gets loaded into the memory. Now once Unity is launched, you can come into the inspector and you have this URP empty template. You can click on this remove readme asset, and in this confirmation dialog box you can just click on proceed to remove it. It's not required. For the project to continue, we need some assets, and this assets is already provided to you. If you come into the YouTube video page and if you come here into the description and scroll down, you are provided with a Patreon link. Click on this Patreon link, and when you come into the Patreon page, just scroll down and you have one file here, Dear Game Starter Files.unity package. Click on this to download it. And once it is downloaded, come back to Unity, and in project assets, I am going to right click, come into import package, custom package, and browse to the downloads this particular Dear Game Starter Files.unity package. Select this and click on open. And in the import Unity package dialog box, see that all is selected and click on import. Now when you launch Unity, if you are in the default layout, If you want to use the layout that I am using, if you have not customized your layout, if you can come into the Patreon page, and I have provided one file satvik_layout.wlt. You can click on this file to download, and then you can come into Unity, and here on the right hand side click on this layout tab and click on load layout from file and select the downloaded layout file and click open. And now you can see satvik_layout. If you come into assets, you have a folder called scenes, and if I open this, you have the prototype 2 scene. So double click to open this, then come into the file, choose save as. In Unity project dear game assets, come into the scene, and I am going to call this as dear_game_01, and I am going to save this. I doesn't need this sample scene. I will select it and press delete, and when it asks for this confirmation, click on the delete button to remove it. Now if we explore our dear game_1 scene, you have one main camera, and the main camera is correctly placed to the top, so that in the game view we are seeing the top down view of this. Then you have a directional light that has been added. Then you have environment. This is an empty game object, and if you open this, you have ground, you have left border and right border. Let us start adding the player and our animals to the scene. So to do this, I will come into the scene view, right click, and if I turn, I can scan around. If I press D, A, and if I roll the mouse forward, I can move it fast, and I can see this in a perspective view like this. For this purpose, I want to see even in the scene view from the top view. So I can come here and click on the Y button here, and now I am in the top view. With middle mouse click, I will drag, and this is the view that we are seeing from the top. And now if you come into project panel assets, I will close scenes, and in the course library, if I open it, you have different folders here. You have animals, dog farm, forest, then you have food, then you have humans. I will open humans, and if I select any of the component here, then you can see its preview appearing on the right hand side. So you have men, black, brown, white. So I will select this simple former woman one brown, and I am going to left click and drag it into the hierarchy. I will come into the inspector, and I will reset it to 000 position, so that the player is present at the origin point. I am going to select simple former_woman one brown. So I will press F2 or right click and rename, and I am going to call this as player. I am going to add some animals. Before I add the animal, I want to see which setup are we going to use. As of now, we have a grass background. However, if you want a desert type scene, then I can close humans, and you have one folder here called as materials, and if I open this, see you have one material_sand. If I just drag it and attach it to this plane, see now this became a desert land. Okay, so like this you can choose any of the material for your ground. As of now, I will drag material grass back here because I am going to use material grass. Then I will close materials. I will come into animals. I will open the forest animals, and here you have 4 types of animals. Animal doe, if I select it, you can see the preview. You have doe 1 and doe 2, fox 1 and fox 2, moose 1 and moose 2, stag 1 and stag 2. I will select this animal moose 2, and I am going to drag it from here into the hierarchy window. You can see it is placed. I will come into the transform, and I am going to reset its position. I am going to come into the snapping, and I will set the grid size to 1. I am going to move it along the Z axis, and if I press Ctrl, I can move it by 1 unit, and I will move it 12 units. So I will come into Z and move it by 12 units. If you see, this is appearing very small. This is because the scale is set to 1. I will enable uniform scaling, and I will scale it up by around 10 units. You can now see animal moose is clearly visible here. I will drag it along the x-axis holding my control key and place it -14. I am going to select this animal moose press F2 and I am going to call this as moose1. I am next going to come here and select a fox. So I will drag this fox2 into my scene, select moose1, and here in the transform I will come into the right hand end, copy, and I will copy the world transform. I will select animal fox2 and in transform I will click on this 3 dots, come to paste, and I will paste the world transform. Animal fox2 is placed exactly at the position of moose1. I will move it to the left hand side and along the X I will set its value to 0, and I find this to be very small and I will scale it by 15 units. I will select animal fox2, press F2, and I will call this as fox1. So I select this animal doe1 and I will drag it into the scene. I will come into the inspector and in transform, if I click on these 3 dots, I will come to paste and I paste the world transform. It is at the position of moose1 now. So I am going to just drag it along the x-axis and place it at a value of around plus 14. So I have placed moose1 at minus 14 and doe at plus 14. Come into the hierarchy, plus F2, and I am going to call this as doe1. Let us add some food item. Close the forest. I will come into the food. There are different foods here. You have banana, bone, cookie, energy can, you have organic apple, organic pear. I am going to select this food underscore pizza 1 and I am going to drag it into my scene. Again I will come into the transform, click on the 3 dots and I will reset it so that it's at the point 0, 0, 0. And now with control pressed, I will move some 4 units to the top. However, this appears very small. So I will come into the scale, enable constraint proportions, and I will scale it by 2 units. I am going to go into file, come into my hierarchy, select food pizza 1. I will press F2 and I am going to call this as pizza 1. We have added player, 3 animals and 1 food item, and we have placed it at their appropriate position. So I will come into file and now I am going to save this. Our next mission is to add action to our scene. We are still working on the Unity input legacy system, and today we have the new system. We are going to explore this new system later, but as of now I want you to come into edit, and here in project setting, if you come here into player and in other setting, if I open it and if I scroll down, you have active input handling set to input system package new. I will click here and choose both. It will say that Unity editor restart required. Click on apply. Unity will quit and it will restart. Now once it restarts, in the project setting, if you come into the input manager, we have this axis, and this we had discussed in the previous session. We have horizontal and vertical axis. Now I want my player to move horizontally. So if I come into the horizontal axis, left and right key and A and D are the alternative key, and the name is horizontal. Close project settings window. Coming into my asset, I will right click and in create, I am going to create a new folder and I am going to call this folder as scripts. Then right click, choose create, and I am going to create a new mono behavior script and I am going to call this as PlayerControls. Wait for the script to get compiled. See that the name PlayerControl and the public class PlayerControl name are the same. I double click this to open it in Visual Studio Code. In public class here, as soon as my class flower bracket opens, at the top I will press enter, and in the comment I will write declare horizontal input variable. I will press enter and now I am going to declare public. It's a float number and I am going to call this as horizontal input and end it with semicolon. Horizontal input. I will come into the update. I will again add a comment, get horizontal input from the player. Horizontal input, I am going to make this variable equal to input.getAxis, and the axis I am going to get is horizontal, and I will end it with semicolon. I will go to file and save this file. And now if I come into Unity and allow the script to get compiled, I will select this player control script, drag it and attach it to my player. In the player, you have horizontal input set to 0. I am going to come to file, save, and now if I execute the game and if I check it, now as the game is playing, see the value of horizontal input here. If I press the right arrow, you can see the value will increase from 0 and go to 1. And if I press the left arrow, you can see the value decreases and goes till -1. Now I will stop the playback. Now although the horizontal input value is changing, the player is not actually moving, because open player controls and come into Visual Studio Code, we have assigned the value to horizontal input, but we have not added the code to move our player. So to move the player, in the next line in update, I will come into line number 18 and I am going to call the transform component period, and I am going to call translate, and in open close bracket I will end it with semicolon, and inside the bracket first I need to tell in which direction I want my player to move. So I will call vector 3 and I want it to move it either left or right, so I will call it right, then space, and I am going to multiply it by this axis value, horizontal input. So I will multiply it by horizontal input. And right now it is updating every frame, but I want it to update every second. So I will multiply this by time.DeltaTime. And finally, I want the entire thing to be controlled by a speed. So I will press into and I am going to multiply it by variable speed. However, you see a red line here for speed because we have not yet declared this variable. So I will come to this sixth line, public float horizontal input, and I will press enter and I will declare another public float type variable and I will call it speed, and its initial value will be equal to 10.0 f. End it with semicolon. Now you can see the speed red line is removed. So I will come into file, save this and come back to Unity and allow the script to get compiled. Now if I play the game and check it, if I press right, the player is moving right. If I press left, the player is moving left. But now the only issue is he moves beyond the ground area. Say he is moving away from the ground area. He has to move within the bounds of my ground area. This we are going to implement it next. Now to bound our player within a particular limit, say for example I select the player and along the x-axis, see if I move the value, see I can move it, and as soon as it comes to a value of around approximately say for example -16. When it comes to -16, he shouldn't move further. This is the logic we have to apply. So I will set x back to 0 here. Come here, double click player controls, and in update, now I am going to add a condition. We are going to use the condition statement if, and in open close parenthesis we are going to add the condition, and if this condition is true, then press enter and I will add open close flower bracket. When the condition is true, whatever code is written inside this code block will be executed. Now if, what is the condition that I have to test? I have to now get the current position of my player. I will call transform component period. I will call the position component, and in position I am going to call specifically x value. And this x value I am going to set it if it is less than -60. Then what should happen? Come into this code block. I want the transform position of my player to be equal to a new vector 3 value. And in open close bracket I will end it with semicolon. I have to specify x, y, z value. Along the x, I want it to stay at -16, and for y there is no change. So it will be transform.position.y, transform.position.z. So it will take the current y position and current z position. Only the x value, if it decreases below -16, it will keep it at -16. If I go to file and if I save this and if I come back to Unity and allow the script to compile, I will now come into the play. I will select the player. When I press left, you can see the left arrow, it comes at 16. Beyond 16, it is not going to move. Stop the playback. Now to implement the same logic on the right hand side, I will come here back into Visual Studio Code and I am going to select this entire if statement, copy this and I will press enter twice and paste it. I will press enter twice again. Instead of setting this value to minus 16, I am going to make it 16 and instead of lesser than sign, I am going to make it greater than sign because this is a positive value. I will come back here and set the value instead of minus 16 to 16. One refinement I want to do here is this value minus 16 and plus 16, instead of entering it directly, I want this to be stored as a variable because we are repeating the same number at multiple points. I will come on the top and below this public float speed, I will press enter and I am going to declare public another float number. I am going to call this number as bound value and I will set it equal to 16f and end it with semicolon. I am going to take this bound value and I will copy it and now coming in transform position x instead of minus 16, I will replace with this variable bound value and even in new vector instead of minus 16, I will make it minus bound value. And similarly here also I will change it to bound value and even in this new vector 3 also I will change it to bound value. Now one last thing is I want to add comments here. So we had declared horizontal input variable, then next line to declare speed variable. After speed I will press enter and I will add declare boundary variable. And if I come down here in the update, I will press enter and add 2 forward slashes. We are going to keep the player within the bounds and below we have get horizontal input from player. This we have already added. And finally here in the next line, I will add move player based on input. I will come into file, save this. And if I now come into Unity and allow the script to compile, see there are no errors. One mistake we had done here is if I select Fox, see Fox scaling, we had done it only along the X value. Along the Y and Z also, I will scale it by 15. Then I will go to file and save this. I will select the player and now if I play the game, see now when I press the left button, you can see it comes to minus 16 and stops. And if I click the right button, it will come here and stops at plus 16. Stop the playback, I can select the player and here you have the bound value which is set to 16. If I want to change it, I can directly make the changes here. So with this, we are going to conclude this session and in our next session, we are going to work on our food, that is the pizza.